Hello, this video is to demonstrate or show some of the common mistakes we see during system bids. The scheduling committee's been answering both bid error questions and how to bid questions over the course of the last several system bids since we started using PVBM. And there are some things that pop up commonly. We don't get a lot of practice using the software here since we only do this theoretically once a year for the annual system bid and then every once in a while for a supplemental bid. So we'll roll right into the first error we see very commonly. So let's say my last award, I was awarded Captain, 320 Captain here. And my last bid, I did that via Vacancy bid sheet. So I asked for Captain specifically. But let's say in the previous bid, or the previous bids, I had a standing vacancy bid because I was on 190 FO. And I still have 320 FO as a standing bid in here. Now, if I'm happy where I currently am, I don't really need to have a bid in here at all. I might not go into PVBM to check my bid. But if this bid is in my standing vacancy bid, left over from previous bids that were overridden by me putting in a vacancy bid sheet, because if you put something in here, it doesn't read this bid sheet. So if something was left over here and the system bid runs, it's going to very happily downgrade me to 320 FO. And on top of that, there's a 2-year equipment freeze, 2-year seat lock for that. If you're happy where you are, where you don't want to move, the first thing you want to do is clear out anything in your standing vacancy bid. You don't want this to have anything in it because you don't want to go anywhere. You only fill out the vacancy bid sheet or the standing vacancy bid sheet or the standing voluntary displacement bid if you want to go somewhere. Another common mistake we'll see along the same lines as that is we'll see a pilot who builds out a bid in the standing vacancy bid. So we'll see something that might look like this. And then the pilot will go to the vacancy bid sheet after they've taken a break from that and go work on the bid some more and add a few more spots that they're interested in. And they forget that they had something in the other side. And so what will happen is I've submitted a oops, I gotta put 2 or put 1 in there. There we go. They'll forget that they worked in this standing vacancy bid, or they'll forget that they worked in the vacancy bid sheet. Now when they return to the system, they go here and look at this page and click right through that warning and go, I've got a bid in here. I'm happy with that bid. I've submitted the bid. I can see right here I've submitted it. So off we go to the races. In the meantime, this is the bid sheet that gets run, and it doesn't have the same selections. So when you see that warning, that's a warning to tell you you have something in this vacancy bid sheet. PVBM is not going to process this bid sheet at all. Another common mistake we see is a misunderstanding between what involuntary displacement and what voluntary displacement is. So voluntary displacement happens in seniority order. So in this case, let's assume that none of these pilots bid for a vacancy and it goes to displacement. Then first it's going to check bidder number 1. Did that bidder bid a voluntary displacement, yes or no? If it does, it'll read it and process it. After it's processed bidder number 1, it'll keep going down until it's reached the desired number of total pilots in that position. In this case, all pilots need to leave, so the system will process all the way down to the bottom if there are any pilots left, and it goes back up in the involuntary bid processing. Where it's more evident is when displacement happens in another base, because now displacement from the first base overstaffs that one. So for an example, in this case, vacancy bidding has happened. A couple pilots have moved in there down at the bottom. And now bidder number one uses a voluntary displacement to move to base A. But now there's an overage in base A. So the system would go through a voluntary displacement and look for a pilot that wants to leave to a different base. It'll go down 2, 4, 5, 6, and let's say in this case it finds bidder number 16 wants to leave. If it gets to the bottom and nobody asked for a voluntary displacement, now we start processing involuntary displacements, and it goes from the bottom up. And in this case, bidder 28 would go over. So when we look at our voluntary and involuntary bids, we want to make sure that they're built correctly. We see the voluntary bid looking a lot like an involuntary bid frequently. So just remember that vacancy and voluntary bid, they both are V. These are the bids that you want to have when you desire to go to a different position. So either you're trying to get a vacancy or you're trying to leverage your seniority via the voluntary displacement process to get into a position you desire. So for example, if I'm a JFK 320 captain, I might have an involuntary bid like this that shows, okay, if I can't be a captain, I want to stay in Kennedy as much as possible, so I'm going to bid for all these positions in JFK. In order of priority, I would rather be an Airbus FO, and then a 190 captain, and then a 190 FO. And then if I can't hold any of those, I guess we'll start looking at Fort Lauderdale, and I would continue to build that bid out. What we wouldn't want to see is that same bid in the voluntary displacement tab, because now you'll be the first to go to 320 FO instead of being the last to go. Here's another common error. We see sometimes, and I've just gone back to this bid sheet that was a standing bid, we'll see sometimes where the pilot will put conflicting bid lines in and want to be awarded all of them. Remember, this maximum bid awards is saying, I want how many of these lines awarded throughout the process. So you can have hundreds of bid lines. Obviously, you can only be awarded a single position for each effective date, but you can be awarded up to 6 or however many effective dates there are in a year. So by selecting 3 here, because you have 3 bid lines, that's not how the system works. What that means is, or what you're telling PVBM is, you want all of these awards. Now, fortunately, in the case of this bid, the system's smart enough to know if you go to 190 captain and you can hold 320 captain, that this will cause an equipment freeze and prevent you from getting this. So it would not award this line. It'll just award line 3 and line 1. Finally, this is one that we see quite a bit. If I add a bid and click Save here, this is not submitting the bid. You'll see this lights up. It tells you that you have a change you need to submit. You haven't submitted this. So even though I clicked that Save button, all that did is put that on the line here on my bid sheet. I need to click Submit All Bids in order to do it. And I still haven't filled in this max bid award, so I'm going to go ahead and try it just to show you it requires that. So we'll put something in here and click Submit. Once you do that, you'll get a confirmation email from PVBM to your JetBlue account. You'll be able to see your bid in the bid submission log, and you should get a little confirmation note at the bottom of the screen. As always, you can submit a PDR via b6alpha.org. It does require you to log in. Select scheduling and go ahead and fill out the information here. Once the awards are published, we have an email set up with crew planning that delivers to both ALPA scheduling and crew planning or crew staffing. And that'll be provided once the bids are published. Thanks for watching. You can find more information through these resources.